Today we're going to learn how to rewrite fractions with a common denominator. Then you'll have a chance to complete some of these problems on your own. Here's our first problem. Rewrite the following two fractions with the least common denominator. And we can see the fractions we're working with are 1/4 and 2/5. Well, before I do anything else, I always like to start by drawing out my fractions. I could draw a square and break it up to show 1/4. I can do the same thing, draw another square and break it into pieces to show 1/2. Now in this problem, it tells me to rewrite the fractions with the least common denominator. The denominator is always the number on the bottom of a fraction, so here we're looking at a 4 and a 5. Well, the first thing that we need to do is figure out what we should change these denominators into. To do this, we look for something called the least common multiple, or LCM for short. To find the least common multiple, what you need to do is skip count by the denominators, so 4 and 5. If we skip count by 4, we get 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, etc. For 5, we get 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, etc. Now the least common multiple is the first number that appears in both of these lists of skip counts. So you can look through the lists and see that the first number in both of them is 20. Now finding that the least common multiple equals 20 is important because now we know we want to change our denominator to be 20. We want to take our fraction of 1/4 and rewrite it with a denominator of 20. Well, to do this, we'll want to start by taking the 4 and changing it to 20. Well, you might realize that we could do this by taking 4 and multiplying by 5. But if you're ever not sure, just look at your skip counts above. To get from 4 to 20, we have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 skip counts. So to move from 4 to 20, we'll multiply by 5. Now remember, we're just rewriting this fraction. We're not changing it, so we need to do the same thing on top. We take our 1, and we also need to multiply by 5. 1 times 5 will be 5. Now to prove to you that all we've done is rewrite the fraction, let's take a look at our picture. We're starting off with 1/4, but if I break it up into 5 pieces, we can see that even though I haven't changed the fraction, we could now count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pink pieces out of 20. So we can see that the fraction 1/4 is actually the same fraction as 5/20, just rewritten. Now we repeat this process with our other fraction, 2/5. We need to change it so it has a denominator of 20. We'll start by changing the 5 into a 20. We could count that 20 is the 1, 2, 3, 4th skip count, so we're going to multiply by 4. Now we have to do the same thing on top, so 2 times 4 is 8. Let's prove that this is the same thing. If we look at our picture of 2/5 and break it up into 4 pieces, we can now count that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blue pieces out of a total of 20. 2/5 can be rewritten as 8/20. So now we have our answer. 1/4 and 2/5 can be rewritten as 5/20 and 8/20. Now let's do one of these problems together. Here's the same problem, but now we're looking at the fractions 2/5 and 1/6. Let's start by drawing out these fractions. Here's a square that we can break into pieces to show 1/2. Here's another square that we can break into pieces to show 1/6. Now what are my denominators in this problem? Well, the denominator is always the number on the bottom of the fraction. Here it's the 5 and the 6. So we'll need to skip count by 5 and by 6 to find the least common multiple. Do this on your own. Write out the skip counts of 5 and 6 and pick what their least common multiple is. Well, the skip counts of 5 are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. We could keep going. For 6, we have 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42. Again, we could keep going. But we can see the first number that appears in both lists of skip counts is 30. So now we know our denominator needs to be 30. We have to take 2/5 and change it to a fraction that has a denominator of 30. Well, what can we do to take our 5 and change it to 30? Well, you might know 5 times 6 is 30, or else you could count that it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 skip counts. So I'll multiply by 6. Now, what do I need to do with the 2? Well, I have to keep it the same, so I also multiply by 6. 2 times 6 gives me 12. We can check that this works with our picture. You look at 2/5 now, but if we break it into 6 pieces, now you can count up 12 pig pieces out of a total of 30. 2/5 is the same fraction as 12/30. Now let's repeat with our other fraction, 1/6. We're going to rewrite it so it has a denominator of 30. How can I rewrite 1/6? We'll start by changing the 6 into a 30. You can do that by multiplying by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we have to do the same thing on top. 1 times 5 gives us 5. In our picture, you could show that 1/6, if you break it into 5 pieces, is the same as 5/30. So we can rewrite 2/5 and 1/6 as 12/30 and 5/30. Now you'll have a chance to practice some of these problems on your own. Rewrite the following 2 fractions with the least common denominator. Well, we're looking at the fractions 1/4 and 2/3. I like to draw them out. Here's 1/4, and here's 1/2. Now these fractions have a denominator of 4 and 3, so we need to skip count by 4 to get 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. And by 3 to get 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, etc. So we could look and see the first number in both lists, the least common multiple, is 12. So we have to take our 1/4 and rewrite it as a fraction with a denominator of 12. Well, to turn 4 into 12, we can multiply by 1, 2, 3. So therefore we take our 1, and we also multiply by 3. 1 times 3 is 3. In our picture, you can see the 1/4 could be split up and is the exact same as 1, 2, 3 twelfths. Now we do the same thing with our other fraction, 2/3. We rewrite it with a denominator of 12. To turn 3 into 12, you multiply by 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we do the same thing on top. 2 times 4 equals 8. Visually, you can see 2/3 is the same as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 12. 2/3 equals 8/12. So we can rewrite 1/4 and 2/3 as 3/12 and 8/12. Now here's your last problem for today. Rewrite the following 2 fractions with the least common denominator. Well, we're looking at the fractions 2/3 and 5/8. That means we have a denominator of 3 and 8, so we should skip count by 3 and 8. If we write those out, we get 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. And for 8, we get 8, 16, 24, 32. And we can see the first number in both of these lists is 24. So take your 2/3 and rewrite it with a denominator of 24. Now to turn 3 into 24, you have to multiply by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have to do the same thing with a 2, so we have to take the 2 and multiply it by 8 as well. 2 times 8 gives us 16. 2/3 can be rewritten as 16/24. Now our last fraction is 5/8. We need to change it to a denominator of 24. So take the 8 and multiply by 1, 2, 3. That means you also take the 5 on top and multiply by 3. 5 times 3 gives us 15. So we can rewrite 5/8 as 15/24. Meaning our answer to the problem is that you can rewrite 2/3 and 5/8 as 16/24 and 15/24. So for today, remember, find a common denominator for fractions by skip counting, and then multiply to rewrite the fractions.